Welcome to the Acoustic Shoppe Knows Things. It's a supplemental podcast, guys. Isn't that exciting?
So we're not going to talk to people?
We're not going to talk to anybody today. We're talking to each other about things that we're experts on things.
Just like consider the title, just make it like the Acoustic Shoppe Knows People and Things.
No,
person.
We don't want to confuse people. We know people, but we also know things. Just like your uncle who listens to Sean Hannity every day, we're experts at everything. So we're going to talk about things. What are we talking about today, Jeremy?
You just put me on the spot. I think we're going to talk about conventions. Are they worth it? Should you attend? Is it worth it for the people putting on the convention? And is it worth it as a person attending a convention?
Yeah, this is a pretty appropriate conversation. We've been doing a lot of conventions for our industries, not only music industries, but the retail industry. And there is a weird consensus out there that conventions and showcasing your products is a thing of the past.
I beg to differ with that whole idea. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about.
Well, do you
today.
beg to differ that they are a thing of the past, or that the opinion out there is that they're dead?
I'm going to go with, I think the opinion that they're dead is wrong. And also that conventions are a thing. I think both of those are the same answer.
Well, what I stated was the fact that people think they're dead, not... We're discussing that here coming up.
Yes. I am more confused now than I've ever been in my life. Let's start the podcast.
Let's state it to Jeremy. Are conventions a dead thing?
Let's find out.
Take me away, 'cause I can be the link. Let somebody want letting go and I can have my way.
All right, guys. I think this is an interesting twist on things. We know people, and sometimes we knows things. And the Acoustic Shoppe knows things. We're going to talk about conventions. That's a very important subject. But before we do that, Jason, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
You look a little tired. You look sleepy.
Since the last podcast, I've had twins. So I'm very sleepy.
It's only noon right now, so I guess I understand you're still waking up.
I know the last podcast was a week ago to you folks out there, but actually it's been a few months. We ran a few pilot episodes before we got into this new format. And I'm tired. 5 kids? Who'd have thunk it? John's got 5 kids now.
Kids. I would have thunk it, actually. I guess that's the deal. So, yes, I have come to the conclusion that teenagers suck.
Oh,
and
she might be listening.
She knows.
She's not going to listen to you. I'd like to take this opportunity to make an announcement. I know you guys each have 5 kids. Something pretty special is going on with me and Shaylin. We're not having any more kids.
Did you give away one?
I'd like
Very
to figure that out.
Announcement.
Is there a way to
where's that
do an
drop-off?
exchange? I'd like a kid exchange system.
It's kind of mean to do to like a 5-year-old, and he's kind of figured out that it's not real. But for a while, I kept telling Avery we're going to the Avery store and going to trade him in for a different Avery, and he'd get very mad at me.
And then you're
Avery, we're going to get a new
out.
Avery. We've learned a lot with you that we think we could do better with a new one. So we're going to go trade you for another Avery.
He's going to drop you in the first home when you're old. He's never going to call you.
He's got over.
because of that.
Dad, there's no Avery store.
No, there's definitely not another Avery out there to buy.
None that I would trade for.
Anyway, I think things are going well though in our world. We see each other every day, so there's no real news that we don't know.
No.
The economy of the acoustic shop's going strong.
Things are growing. And one of the reasons we picked this subject matter as our first Acoustic Shoppe Knows Things is we got a number of conventions we're going to be attending this year. Yeah. Conventions and festivals.
Is this
events?
So I know we're covering conventions. Is this just conventions or just overall events?
Well, in this instance, is more professional marketing opportunities. Maybe you could put it.
But there is. We can also discuss the opportunities of events and all that, and festivals. This is also an argument that people have. Festivals are dead. Only the largest survive these days, which is it's a thing that we've seen coming for a long time, but it's also not a thing. There's a lot of new events coming up, and
can I break this as a theory here officially right
Please
now?
do, John.
Since we're going to go in this world, can we talk about evolution? Evolution is a thing, and basically, I'm not talking about creation versus evolution.
Let's just run into a different podcast market.
But I think
change
in the end, that's what this is all about. Is the evolution of industry in general. We can talk about this, whether we talk about sales, whether we talk about businesses, all that stuff. It is in an ever-changing, especially right now, in these 2020s era that we are in right now, everything is changing.
I bet they've said that throughout time, especially now.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
been no time more than the present that you've got to be ready for change. Now, let's go back a few steps. Okay, talking about industry-specific conventions, we have always been on the side of, yes, these are very valuable. We get a ton out of them, but we also approach them different. I remember when we used to go to IBMA as a band.
By the way, IBMA, International Bluegrass Music Association, has a convention every single year. Sorry,
It used to
World
be
of Bluegrass.
used to be in Louisville, Kentucky when we first attended, and we decided, hey, if we're going to go out there, we got a showcase spot. We're going to showcase in all the rooms. We booked ourselves as many showcases as we possibly could. But we also set up a booth, and when we did a booth, we did it above. Like most people get a booth, and you got the drapes already provided by the convention center, and then they just set up a table with some pamphlets or something on it.
Yeah.
We always went a little above and beyond, and really
Set dressing. That's what we did.
It's there to get attention, right? You're there to try to get
Exactly.
attention, and people attending the event want to see something other than your table with a tablecloth on it and a, hey, take a free mint. A lot of people were like excited, hey, we got a jar of mints at our table if you guys come by.
Free
That is
candy.
a pretty big deal,
So-
though. Honestly, who does not go to a convention and expect free candy?
But it's become
both your
baked
points,
into
though.
the cake.
To both your points, though, John's evolution comment and also your what the people expect, I always found, and I don't know if that's because we came in at a different generation of these conventions, but we came to a completely different focus of it. We expect one thing out of it that people don't, the other people aren't expecting. A lot of the bands that went to IBMA, and also this spills into NAMM for the people that the
By the way,
manufacturers.
NAMM, the National Association of Music Merchants.
Thank you, John.
John.
The manufacturers
here.
also that go to NAMM, and also the dealers go to NAMM.
Manufacturer, a person who builds things. Go ahead.
Thank you. And retailer.
The person who sells the things built.
Thank you. They go into expecting a direct return.
Yeah.
And that was my argument has always been direct marketing return versus your awareness, content brand awareness. We were always of the fact that we will put all our efforts and money into things that create awareness because that's overall helps
Long-term.
everything.
I mean, it's been so successful for us as a band.
Oh yeah, of course. But that was
But
the
it
argument.
was at those festivals. Like at IBMA, we would do that, and then you'd have all the other bands. Boy, you guys went way out on this one, didn't you? Boy, you put a lot of effort into this. We don't get it. Have you ever got a booking out of this festival? And we would actually leave there with quite a few leads, quite a few bookings, but fans would love it. We ended up getting some endorsements. I remember the first time we showed up, we did recently get endorsed by GHS at that time, but they had set up a booth across the hall. They came over and said, man, you guys are representing GHS better than we are. And we've had like the best relationship with Ben Cole when he was with GHS ever since that because we put in that extra effort. But we leave those events going, man, we got so much out of IBMA. And all the other banders like, that whole organization's a ripoff. It's a waste
they
of
didn't
time.
do anything for me this week.
Yeah. And they would just show up and expect, hey, you put on a convention, I showed up. Where's my opportunities? Where's my growth?
Yeah, and I think that's that disconnect that they always have is they don't see it as a showcasing, a show. You got to put on a show at those events to be aware or to be in the awareness, the consciousness. And that goes to also the NAMM argument now. The NAMM argument after post-COVID is NAMM's dead. We have no reason. We don't do any POs when
already
we go to
selling
NAMM.
plenty
We're
of
already
stuff.
selling more than we need. Why show up? Well, there's an awareness. Look at events like CES, the large retailer, the large giant
Electronic
conventions,
shows.
electronic shows, and all those.
Comic-Con, I mean,
They don't sell any. They're not allowed to sell anything there. They're not allowed to sell anything at NAMM either. But they're not creating POs there or anything. It's about showcasing your product, putting you at the
Front
top
of mind.
Yeah, front of mind,
Well,
top of the list.
That's where it comes in what I was talking about, evolution, the change. And I agree that's what this industry, and I want to use NAMM probably as my first specific, and honestly, this will spill into every one of these conventions. But NAMM, when we first got into this industry, actually before we were in a music store, we came to NAMM, and it was
as a guest artist.
we came as a guest artist, and it was this like world of wonder. We came in there, we got to see things that we'd never seen before, products that we would never be able to see, and then we saw those manufacturers and made connections and did all that kind of deal. Now, the industry itself, like retailers, business owners that were doing this, saw this as what they thought NAMM was about, and it probably was. And we saw it even at the very beginning of us as a store that they did. These manufacturers would put this out, and the end user for that convention was the retailers that were coming to that convention. That was who they were marketing to. That was, how they did. And their goal was purchase orders and, tell them about this. This is what I expect
Let's
you
plan your
guys
purchases for this year.
This is going to be the product. This is what I think you guys should have, blah, blah, blah. And let's build purchase orders.
These are the specials we're giving you and all that.
And again, this is where I think this is all evolved. And I think it's to the betterment of the consumer. I think this now has to be marketed for an opportunity for manufacturers to actually sell to the end users. As much as we all, as retailers, want to pretend that we have the power and we're there, the fact is it has been taken completely out of our hands and is now consumer driven. The 2023, 22, 20, all the way back into probably 2017, I would probably say for sure, has been a world where the consumer now gets to determine what they want, who they want to buy it from,
They've already done more research than most retailers have anyway when they go to buy.
Absolutely. And now the consumer knows what they want to get and how they want to get it. And 2020 totally changed that whole world because now every single person who was adverse to buying over the internet has now had a taste of it and was forced to do it to some degree. You know this. Our father sat home while COVID was going on and had no choice but to experience the Amazon mail order and Walmart, coming and buying your groceries and delivery and pickups and all the, curbside pickup, everything that most of that consumer has, tried to stay away from them. We know that younger people tend to kind of adopt this stuff a lot easier than people who have established a style of buying. And now all of a sudden they're used to that. And it wasn't so bad. Some of them went, a lot of people went, you know what, this is great. I don't have to deal with a salesman that tells me what I think I need to buy. I get to deal with what I knew I already wanted to buy, and the return process wasn't so bad. So now consumers really have the ball in their court. They get to do what they want. So I think that brings me to what I think is evolved.
Please get to your point.
Yes, my point now is these shows now need to completely change their idea. It's not to the retailers that they're trying to sell to. They're now trying to sell to the consumer.
Yeah.
Okay, can I disagree with everything you just said
Good,
and
do
just dismiss it offhand? What it can be, and I'm really serious about that. I think you had good points there. I don't think it has to completely engineer conventions.
No.
Always these conventions, the most successful ones are multifaceted. Somebody attending it should be able to get something out of it in multiple ways. And I think the people that are dismissing them aren't seeing all the multifacets. Like, I give kudos to NAMM as a business. Our business would not be anywhere near where it's at right now if we hadn't attended our first NAMM. And we had other music stores that have been in business for 20, 30
Sure.
years saying, why would you go to that? It's a waste of money. It just costs so much money. We went there. First thing, it opens your eyes to the size and scope of the industry. Like, you don't realize how big the music retail industry is until you attend a NAMM show. And the same thing for CES or Comic-Con or any of those. Just the size and scope of the industry, it's eye-opening. It's like going to another country and realizing, hey, there's other people around the world that speak a different language and have a different culture. It's eye-opening. Then the educational summits were so great and NAMM does a great job. They got them for the musician. They've got them for the music retailer. They've got them for lesson programs. They've got education summit or things going every half hour. The entire time it's there. If you're a retailer, meeting vendors, that is so important. Like the relationships we've built with Eastman and Bedell and Breedlove, all the, like McPherson, all those happened from those face-to-face meetings we had at NAMM, and then the after dinners that we go out and become friends. And those relationships have helped us so much. When a new product would come out, we can just call those guys up and it's a friendly conversation rather than just hoping to reach a rep that you've never met before. And then again, the next phase of it, I think maybe the new addition to this now is turn this into, let's not launch our products to the retailers. Let's get the hype growing amongst the consumers, invite them into the show, show them, hey, maybe a Saturday is the consumer day. And they just do these big presentations like they do at CES where they have when Apple's going to release a product and they invite everybody in the auditorium and they have flash and bang and they have dancers and they have a spectacle to announce the new iPhone.
So your argument then is literally what Jason said a second ago about the idea that a direct result is not what these people should be expecting when doing these conventions. I think, a direct result of paid sales and automatic purchase orders and all that kind of stuff is not necessarily should be the goal.
Yeah.
It's more conventions really need to be existent in relationships, and that's with the consumer, that's with the retailers, that's with whoever it is that's all part of that industry. Conventions really, I guess, and that's really what it probably
I'd like
started
to
out
take
as.
Both your points and say you're both wrong.
Okay,
and we're
let's go.
dismissing both your points. No, what I think Jeremy's saying, and we all agree upon this, I think the expectation needs to change. I think
On all sides.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you're attending it, if you're hosting it. if
everything you're talking about
setting
that
up a
you
booth.
gain from NAMM and all these other events, IBMA, is a marketing tool. These are all marketing tools. We help market their products as a retailer.
Says the head of our marketing department.
Well, it is a marketing tool. I mean, the relationships are a marketing tool. They need to understand that creating relationships with their front line, the retailers, is important because they're marketing their materials now. That goes to John's point of the market changing. It used to be the experts were the retailers locally. Now the retailers and the experts are everywhere. So you need to create those relationships and create that content and show off your brand and show off your wares to everybody there, including the retailer, the
Sure.
end user, your competition. It all needs to be a show. And that was my point. These conventions are to brag, to show what you have, to be the new coolest thing. And that's
cause
what
a
you come
buzz.
to. And that goes back to the same argument of bands at IBMA or bands at festivals. You're there to accomplish
Fair
one thing, to be in
festivals,
front of
yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
to be a front of mind. And I think what the problem has become is there's a disconnect between the people that put on the event, the people that are showing off at the event, and the people that come to the event. The people coming to the event expect something. The people at the event expect something. And NAMM or the IBMA or any of those businesses expect another thing. And they expect, I don't know what they expect. They don't get much out of it. But
I think you get as much out of it as you put into it on all sides. Like at IBMA, again, there's tons of booths set up there. Most of them show up, and it's just we've got our table that's already provided by the convention center. It's got a drape around it, and it's got a drape over the table. We're just going to set our things on top of the table and use the sign that they put up behind us that just says our booth space and the name of our company. And then we went there and went extreme. We had a giant stage with a 20 by 10 foot tall backdrop to have performers and video and live stream from it. We had a booth set up that it held, I think, 100 guitars it could hold. And we just set up almost our own music store there and took up almost 100 square foot, more than 100 square foot, a lot more than 100 square. It was a 40 by 60 and then another 20 by 10 along the other wall. So just a huge footprint of that. And yes, there was a lot of effort into building that set, bringing all that stuff all the way to North Carolina. But the amount of buzz and attention it brought the store and the amount of sales that it attributed to at the show was just, invaluable. And if you consistently keep that up and put that much effort into it, the same thing if you're a band showing up and you book as many high-profile showcases as you can and just be seen, I think they're absolutely worth it.
yeah.
And then you get tired and don't want to do it ever again. And
Until next year.
Until next year. The Acoustic Shoppe Knows People is brought to you by the fine folks at the Acoustic Shoppe.
Some fine people over there.
Have you guys ever heard of a mandolin? If so, you should already be in the car driving to the Acoustic Shoppe. If not, you should be on the World Wide Web searching up theacousticshoppe.com. If the answer is no, then you should go listen to a mandolin, then get back to step one and continue through the rest of the steps. As always, please drive safely.
Speaking of that, the IBMA experience that we created, does go back to that larger industry. We learned a lot from NAMM on that side of things. NAMM is always, they get it. The industry gets it. I think their expectations are out of whack as suppliers. I think their expectations were, having more POs at the time when they need to understand that it's more about that experience, about showing off and showing up at these giant booths that amaze and wow us and the customers and say, wow, that's a great corporation.
Do you think it got out of hand where the pomp of the booths became so expensive that they're all competing with each other. And now if you take a step back, you look like you're not doing as well. But it got expensive. Like some of those manufacturers spending, $500,000 to attend NAMM when they build the booth, get all their staff out there.
By one of our vendors, I was given a note that they believe that they have spent over $1 million on that convention alone between staffing and the building of that product and what it costs to just be there.
It's all union, so you got to get all the stuff
Sure.
built by the union there, and it's not cheap.
And again, this goes back though to again, what are your expectations? How far can you make this go? And not just, I get your idea of I got to go in there and be the best, but what does that actually mean? I will tell you this. One thing that kind of backs you or steps back a little bit from where you're talking about, those big, huge booths and all that stuff were all amazing and did stuff. But some of our finest products that we ever had and our biggest talking points for the year were some of the little booths that just showed up and just did something that grabbed our attention, one, and that is your point, but did it in a way that was cost effective and also just you came up with a product, you were able to show us what it was, and we came home going, wow, that was really cool.
Yeah.
I want to be part of that.
It's something we didn't talk about when we said all the benefits we got from NAMM. Even our point of sale system, we use Rain POS, was a small 10 by 10 booth at NAMM, but they were just showcasing, and it brought all the people that might like their product into one space so that as you're walking by, they say, hey, have you seen our product? And so, yeah, not a huge expense
There's
on their
levels
part.
to everything. Let me be clear. I'm not
I
saying
wish you would.
I'm not saying that a small brand that builds custom guitars should buy a booth the size of Shure microphones. That's ridiculous. But if you're competing with larger brands, Shure microphones
Sure.
needs to build a giant booth because they need to create that excitement, brand awareness, and marketing.
But again, I think that
But
do
on
better
your
for the consumers too.
Yeah, and then your argument of the Rain POS system, we also sat down with a guy who brought a stool and used the backdrop that Nan provided him and offered a kind of janky example of his system.
Yeah.
And we didn't go with him because the one system seemed better and they marketed it better. And
For
they
a second there, I thought you said a guy that brought us stool. And I was like,
brought us samples of his stool. No, but there are levels.
Gross.
There are levels to this, and there's
Sure.
always been levels to this at NAMM. When you go into the acoustic guitar area, there are people like Deering who build their own booth. They go through their effort.
Sure.
They always have a good looking booth, and it shows their wares
Classy.
really well. McPherson always had a good backdrop and a nice display of great guitars. But then there's also some guys that show up and refuse to do anything now, and
I think
the
that
one
is
that
a
really
absolute masterful mistake
Yeah.
of anything of an industry, and that was one thing that happened this year,
Yeah,
this
that's what I was
last
gonna
year
say.
for the NAMM convention, because everybody was scared to come back and put any money back into the convention. A lot of major brands came up with these little conversation booths and all this stuff, and I get it. There was this worry: who's going to attend, who isn't. But again, you can't play that game when you're dealing with an industry. You need to be a leader or you need to be a follower. And if you're going to be a follower,
if you're gonna do it all the way. That's
Sure.
what we've always subscribed to. And I don't want to call out brands, but Collings was one that was really disappointed. We love going to Collings booth every year. We are not Collings dealers, but we love their instruments. We love going. They generally years past have put up a great booth.
even more so,
Very large
D'Addario.
booth.
They're
D'Addario?
a
Exactly.
industry leader, but they have
You
basically
are
said
calling out the booth. I wasn't going to call out industry.
they basically said, we were already selling more than we've ever sold before. The expense is so high, we don't see a reason that we should attend it anymore. And I think it could be short-sighted where if you're not there, then people forget to pay attention to you. They're going to pay attention to the people that are in front of them putting on the parade. And I think NAMM, maybe if we're also going to call it somebody, NAMM should have been more forward-thinking, coming out of COVID where they couldn't do a convention, doing a virtual convention, then trying to get people to come back again, not knowing what the attendance would be, but not adjusting the price and the cost of the booths. I think it was a major mistake. It should have been, if you sign up now, we'll give you next year half price, or we'll do half price now if you sign up for next year.
They need to
make
be
sure they
more
get those people
collaborative.
back in
They
there.
do need to reach out to because there is become this animosity, and I don't.
That's
we're
in
not
every
in
industry.
that side of things,
Let's
but-
step back from NAMM. I mean,
Quit
NAMM,
stepping back, please. We're
NAMM's-
going forward.
NAMM's easy to kind of talk about because that is one of our next big moves, and we know what this industry. And right now, that's where our heads are.
Well, it's the
really,
first one coming up this
Yeah.
year, also. So we're
Yeah,
very
so-
focused.
But that said, now I lost my point. I don't have a.
Please
point
take a
now,
step back,
Jeremy.
John, from the microphone.
The point I'd like to make, going back to this last year at NAMM and the fact that we were disappointed. That's what I think this all comes back to, that marketing side of things. we as a business and as these retailers come in, we've discussed with other retailers that are in the same boat. We use NAMM and their showing at NAMM as a tool to sell their instruments. And even Callings, we always film at Callings because we love their instruments. We don't
Sure.
sell them, but as content creators and marketers online, NAMM is a definite tool for us. It's something we spend money. We take at least 5 employees out, spend the entire week, pay for all those expenses, and there's a return we get for that. But when these businesses,
But it's never been a direct return.
no, obviously not.
Never.
But there's a reason for it. And when these businesses don't show up and show us their things, and we have no way to create content, it really is detrimental to our business.
Well,
not in the fact that
it allowed the ones that did show up to be, again, front of mind, and we spent
Yeah.
more time focusing on those. But, the same thing, it's a multifaceted thing. We spend quite a bit to get our entire staff out there to film the content. We bring that to our following and our fans. They get to watch live streams. They get to watch the video we make afterwards. But we also get our staff invigorated. And anytime we come back from any of these conventions, doesn't matter if it's NAMM, IBMA, SPIGMA, we're getting ready to go to Merlefest this year, Winfield. It really kind of reinvigorates us why we're in this, because you can easily be in your little fishbowl and your little market and forget, there's all these other ideas. There's all this competition out there. It's like if you had a football team that never played outside of their own hometown, wouldn't see the other competition, wouldn't see the other stadiums, wouldn't get excited to play the game on a regular basis. It gets to be old and routine. So we still get something out of it, but it was disappointing that some of the people we were like, hey guys, you wait till you see these guys there, or you wait till you see this one, just decided not to show up this year. And every single one of these industries, from the naysayers, they always go, oh, it's politics. There's so much politics involved. And you just got to put some of that aside. No, any group of people that has more than 3, there's going to be some kind of politicking involved. But it's more about remember what they're there for. NAMM in particular is for the retail industry, music retail industry. IBMA is for bluegrass, SPIGMA for more of the preservation of the old bluegrass. They all have the reasons for existing. And if you kind of play in that court, you can get a lot out of it. And, if you're going to just be, well, they looked me over this year, so it's all politics, you're never going to be part of the team.
I think I was right in the beginning of this conversation. I want to go.
Of course you do.
Let's go back.
Back when you said you had 5 kids?
Yes. No, I want to say the expectations is what we need to look at. I think conventions rise all ships, as they say, right? Rising tide sinks all boats.
Yes, that's
something
it.
of that effect. No, but honestly,
We're all on the boat together.
those conventions do a lot to bring up the industry as a whole.
Sure.
There's awareness, there's marketing opportunities, there's sales opportunities, but the overall thing is it invigorates your industry. That's all that they're there for. They're there for all the communication, the getting to know each other, the personal relationships. So it brings up the industry as a whole. And if you go in there expecting that you will gain personally, directly, and immediately from this convention, you're doing it wrong.
Sure. I get that. And also to fall in this, I want to give a little bit of those booth,
Please take a step back.
exhibitors. I'm going to take a step back. The exhibitors and an argument that they had, and I already have the answer. I know what your guys' answer is going to be too, but to put the argument out there, the cost of it got so high, I was forced to, you've already said, the idea here is to come out here, create your spectacle, your whatever you can, but the cost of it got so high, we just don't feel like it's there. And if we take a step back, it is actually going to hurt us more than it would to not show up at all, which has been said, and I've heard multiple people put that argument out there. I have an answer for it, but I'm curious to see what you guys think of. What's the solution for that?
I say be reasonable. Understand that, yes, you may have to do it on a smaller scale, but you can still create the same buzz on a smaller scale.
Be creative.
Yeah, be creative, and you can. I just don't. I don't understand the argument that I'm just not going to do it this year. You have to do it. It's an expense, and if unless the market in your industry is crashing, which that is not their argument right now. Their argument is we're doing so great we don't have to do it.
That was said multiple times.
That makes no sense to me, because if you're doing so great, that means you should continue the ball rolling and try to grow it even more. So I just don't, that argument makes no sense to me whatsoever. Do it within your means. Like I said, there are levels to this that there are, NAMM isn't just for the multi-billion-dollar corporations, obviously. but you could still make a spectacle and do the marketing correctly on a small scale.
Well, my argument for it is even more than that. Bigger is not always better. I mean, we did a big booth when we came to IBMA this year, and we did bigger than ever before. But man, was there a lot of planning to try to figure out how can we do this on the smallest scale we possibly can and still get our point across.
Well, let's make
and
that.
not waste
Let's make that
waste it.
comparison.
That's
So
what I
years
that's
ago
what I'm
at
saying.
IBMA, we were a struggling band. We were making very little as a band, but we still showed up at NAMM at IBMA as a new band, and we made a spectacle. We did things that people may thought would be cheesy or whatever, but we showed up. We worked with our record label to create chapstick as giveaways, and we gave it to
For
everybody.
the Chapmans.
Get it? And then the next year we worked with GHS Strings to create a putting range in
Sure,
our
and
booth.
it was fun.
But I
That
mean,
was fun.
market yourself
And then-
and you're within your means,
Yeah,
right?
when we talked about this before, when we talked with Becky Buller when we did that booth at the IBMA show where we just set up basically a reproduction of our website in the booth, which was very, very fun and on the cheap. I think something we also forgot to mention that is so important, especially in the manufacturer, but in the band as well, of conventions, is a deadline for you to provide some kind of value. Like for manufacturers, NAMM was always that January's coming around. We've got to have a new product by the January show because that's where we get to showcase it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for IBMA was IBMA is coming around. We got to have a new album release, or we got a new band member to announce, or a new band that we put together. IBMA is going to be our big splash where we can introduce ourselves to the community. So missing those conventions, I've seen the stagnation of some of our manufacturers where they haven't had that pressure of, ooh, NAMM's just around the corner. We got to get this deadline done. And some of these things that they announced 2 years ago still haven't happened yet because they just didn't have that deadline beating them over the head saying, we've got to get this done by the NAMM show.
And to that point, the brand awareness is going away too, because I mean, look at on a smaller scale, the bluegrass industry. We just came back from Spigma. There's a lot of bands that were staples at Spigma that I missed this year. And I was not only, it really makes you think, well, what are they doing? Where are they? I haven't heard anything from them. But also the personal relationships. We didn't get to see any of our friends there that generally were going there every year.
I saw a lot of my
I saw a lot of friends, but
some friends were
a
out
lot
there.
of the friends that we would like to see, and the
Sure.
same thing with IBMA last year.
That was
Very
a big deal.
disappointing that we don't see these. We know they're great bands. We know they're great, top tier bands, but they just don't show up, and it's not fun for anybody.
So I pose the question one more time. Are conventions dead? Obviously, I don't think we think that they're dead. We just think that the focus needs to be redone. Doesn't that kind of feel like what we keep coming back to?
My argument is change your expectations. What you expect out of it, expect nothing, and then be excited when you get something.
That's terrible advice. I think it comes down to what you put into it. Even if you're just attending it, you have a plan. Don't just go there.
Yeah.
If you're a band, if you're doing a booth, if you're a retailer like us, we have scheduled meetings set. We have, all right, we're going to look at this guy's stuff. We're going to look at this guy's stuff. We're going to attend these seminars. Or when we set up our booth at IBMA, we're going to have these bands playing from this hour to this hour. We're going to hopefully do some showcase rooms, some after hours things. We have a plan to get the most out of whoever's bringing this community together for you. They're giving you an opportunity to do something if you're attending it, if you're setting up any of those, but it just depends on what you put into it.
Work really hard to get something out of it and do as much as you can out of it.
And a backwards thing to this for the convention makers, and this is going to fall in every single one of these that we have been to this year. Guys, if you're going to be part of this and you want to be there, make sure that you recognize you have to support the organizations that made this happen. And I am kind of getting tired of listening to whether, I don't care. We've mentioned 3 major conventions that we've dealt with regularly, Spigma, IBMA, NAMM. Every single one of them has a group of people who are going there that feel like they are being taken advantage of by that. And I'm not going to say that there isn't some of that happening, but guess what? Those organizations all feel like you guys are taking advantage of them too and not recognizing the work and energy it takes to come in there. So by being there, if you want to get the most out of your business while you're there, you need to make sure that you're supporting the overall organization that is putting that on. Because guess what, guys? It's not all about you. And again, I think there's the biggest takeaway from this whole deal is it's not all about you. That when we talk about the consumers, it's not all, that's a focus that each one of those need to have. It's not all about sales purchases. It's not all about, as a retailer, about you. It has to be about that community, because that's what conventions are all about, a community thing. And, it also has to be supported by the organization, because that's what's going to kill these. Every single one of these conventions that has died has been because nobody supported the organization that actually made it come together, feeling like it was only about their success while they were there.
Yep.
So what is our conclusion? What was the question again?
Yeah. What?
Sorry, what?
Where are we? I agree. Conventions are a necessary thing. They're very helpful for our business overall. We've made the best out of all these conventions we discussed and festivals.
Well,
we didn't even get into that.
We've already got our tickets for NAMM, Merle Fest. We're going to IBMA again. We're planning on Spigma, Winfield. I mean, we're taking this to another level because we see a lot of value out of it. Yeah. So I would encourage people that are questioning it to reevaluate how you're approaching it and reconsider it.
Put a lot of effort in. Give it one more chance. Put tons of effort into it. Don't just show up and say, come to me. Go out there, be involved, get involved with the organizations, do as much as you can. And I imagine you'll see a return.
Well, and in your return, also recognize that it may not be the return that you thought it was going to be. We've gone to multiples of these conventions going, this is what our focus is going to be, this is where we're going to be, and those succeeded. But man, almost every single one of them had an alternative success of some sort. Whether, we went to this last one thinking that we were going to sell a lot of retail stuff, and yet we ended up actually making more connections with some of the people that were our customer base, and actually created better relationships with a customer base that we kind of knew would be there, but really didn't recognize how much that was going to be beneficial to have a hands-on, face-to-face conversation with the people that we weren't necessarily, jumping down there to go deal with. So
I think the biggest oversight here is we didn't mention all the free tchotchkes.
Yeah.
You got filled bags full of stuff with these things.
I got water bottles and
stuff that's been sitting in my closet for 3 or 4 years now, but I was so excited to take home with me.
I have to say, conventions, T-shirt collecting can be the greatest thing in the whole world until you recognize that you have T-shirts from every company that you don't even know what the companies are. That's
especially Johnny keeps getting
wear them at home.
He keeps getting medium size. I don't know why he was doing those shirts, but
it's for the
I
future.
don't see that. Someday I'm going to fit in this.
I still got jeans sitting in my closet right now that so outdated, but someday I'm going to fit back into that.
On next week's podcast, should you get rid of clothes that don't fit?
Yes.
I thought you were going to go with, should you get rid of clothes that are 20 to 30 years old now?
Definitely not. That's my collection. I don't like
His entire
shopping.
wardrobe is full of it.
At what age can you not wear jeans with holes in them?
They start to have their own holes that weren't there when I bought them.
Yeah, not in the crotch, I'm talking about. Anyway, I think this has been a productive discussion.
Has it?
For the
Really?
Acoustic Shoppe Knows Things. I think
Yeah.
we're experts. We've just proven that.
Really?
Everybody,
NAMM,
Our opinions-
you can thank us for the new attendance records that are going to be set
NAMM,
this year.
IBMA, and
IBMA,
Spigma, and CES. I think we changed their
CES,
view.
absolutely. And
Have you guys seen some of those concrete conventions they do? Those are wild.
Yeah, those
the new
boy,
concrete
the
stamps
industrial
and
products. Yeah.
yeah.
industrial. I mean, how about those? We didn't talk about home shows and all that. This is an opportunity for these people. Look, don't give them up. I find them to all be interesting.
Hey, I want to go back to a point. Okay, let's go back.
Let's do this.
Conventions are
take a step
important.
back,
I got my tuxedo rental from a wedding convention.
Oh, my
I got
goodness.
what else did we get from? I basically filled out my whole list of wedding things in one convention here in Springfield. So they are important.
Hey,
I think that's a one-time purchase in most cases.
Again,
Jason probably be 3 or 4.
this may fall more of what I said too,
can't
as the
afford to get
consumer.
divorced.
Think about this. How would our kids be? 2 conventions came to town that our kids, mine and Jeremy's especially, I think yours probably too, rock convention. How much money did we
We're not
spend?
talking the music. We're talking about minerals.
Minerals, yes. Rocks. Very good. My daughter's huge collector of crystal rocks and various different formations.
I didn't spend that
Your
much
kids?
money that day. My dad did. He was enjoying buying things
And
for the grandkids.
then the one that I really didn't expect was I went to a reptile convention
Oh, boy.
and ended up with a chameleon. See, this stuff has value. It just, you got to figure out what it is.
Anyway, we digress. Conventions are important. Don't give them up, guys.
And if you haven't got a chance to attend some of them, definitely do it on whatever side of it you're on. You're going to enjoy it. Like that IBMA, just seeing some of the celebrities walk around is so fun. Speaking of that, Billy String showed up and was jamming in the lobby.
Exactly.
People go home with that, having experienced something
Guys,
that you wouldn't have got without that convention coming together.
To see at NAMM, I got to see Stevie Wonder one year.
That was awesome.
I got to see Joe Walsh one
Vic
year.
Wooten.
Victor Wooten.
Doyle.
Yes. There you go, Liz.
Some guys from Slipknot.
I've seen so many different. I had my photo taken with the lady that was in the Nashville TV show. I forget.
It's so
her
important that
name.
you know her.
And the products. There's amazing products we would never even get to put our hands on that were
And
there.
people get to shake hands with me.
Exactly.
I mean,
We're celebrities and we're experts at everything.
Attend a convention and meet the Chapmans. There you go.
oh my God.
Anyway.
We just got our new booth.
Again, we digressed. We thank you for listening to the podcast.
Hope you got something valuable out of that.
Obviously they did. And we will be
now
back.
you
again.
guys know something.
We're going to be back for another episode where we know something or
Can we-
know someone.
Can we change it to the Chapmans are extremely opinionated and have.
It's too long. They won't let us put that as a headline, but that'll be the subtitle. All right. We appreciate you guys listening. Whoever has listened this long, we thank you. And
Thank you, listener.
when we applaud you. And we'll see you next time.
The Acoustic Shoppe Knows People. Handmade by Trent Pruitt, Hinkley Hinkleston, and Jason Chapman for the Acoustic Shoppe.
Theme song written and performed by Ofer Koren.
And please remember to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.